Big row going on in Cambridge. Traffic, of course, has always been a problem, but now it's the proposed solution that's causing upset. The plan to bring in a £5 congestion charge if you want to go anywhere in the city. As you can imagine, it's not gone down well with people travelling into Cambridge for work or the school run, but those living inside the zone would benefit from quieter, cleaner streets and better public transport. The public consultation ends on December the 23rd, not long. Here's Ben Schofield.
The morning rush hour in Cambridge, and those behind these plans say that congestion here is among the worst in the UK. They also say that 1 in 5 buses run late because of congestion, and that pollution is linked to more than 120 deaths in Greater Cambridge in 2020. But that hasn't stopped the proposals sparking controversy.
My mother's 96 years old. She's got a knackered hip.
This a community meeting earlier this week where leading councillors faced questions, including about why Addenbrooke's hospital is in the charging zone.
I take my mother places. I will have to pay to take her places.
Claire King drives across Cambridge to her job in a supermarket. She faces the choice between paying to use her car or commuting by bus.
Rather than a 10-minute car journey, I would need to walk to a bus stop, wait for a bus, catch 2 buses, and then get off the bus near work and then walk to work. Now, I've had a look at that journey, and that journey would take me between 45 and 50 minutes, providing the buses came pretty quickly. We need to improve the buses. We don't need to do it by treating residents of cash cows.
Mackay's on the edge of the city centre, a metal and hardware supplier that's been in the city for over a century.
Look at the sort of materials we're bringing. You can't take those on a bus. Absolutely ludicrous.
For the boss, the charge is a threat to business.
If I was a tradesman, I was coming into Cambridge or coming in this direction, and I wanted some materials, and I had a choice between coming down to see my old friend Neil Mackay down in East Road and paying £10, or going to an alternative supplier who might be outside the zone, of which there are plenty, who has a similarly priced goods. Which is he going to do when he's got to put food on the table at the end of the day?
The plans are in 3 parts: a £50 million a year expansion of the bus network, improved walking and cycling routes, and a citywide road charge of at least £5 between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on weekdays. It's estimated the scheme would help cut traffic by half, though one academic who studied transport projects says that's a tall order.
I'm surprised to hear the 50% figure, and I think that might prove to be wildly out of line with outcome.
But John Whiteleg told me congestion charging is a smart way forward. Cities may begin hostile, he says, but grow to embrace them.
And there's a pattern, and the pattern is initial opposition, reluctantly accepting that it is being done, then really liking it, and then everyone finding that the advantages of having all the alternatives.
It is a great place to raise children, but we need a transport system that's fit for the 21st century.
Elizabeth Whitebread, one of a group of parents supporting the plans.
There's no easy answers to this sort of thing, and of course the charge is going to come in a very staggered way. It's not, there's going to be upfront investment before the charge comes in, but I do think it is fair that people who are driving and causing pollution and congestion are the ones who should pay for it. And, the council's signed up to a climate emergency, so it's really time to, walk the walk.
If we don't do anything, we're on a hiding to absolutely nothing.
Elisa Moschini, Labour councillor and chair of the body putting forward the plans.
We have to come clean about the challenges that we face, and all we ask at this point is that people appreciate the extent of the challenge that we have to address. And as we haven't yet made a final decision as to how we will act, it is absolutely important that people understand it isn't an easy solution. Because if there was one, we would have found it probably a while ago.
Councillor Moschini also admitted the consultation has been bruising, but the plans could change with more exemptions, reimbursements, or a redrawn charging zone, as this city tries to find a compromise on congestion. Ben Schofield, BBC Look East, in Cambridge.
Anthony Brown, you are against this congestion charge, aren't you? I mean, why? Wouldn't it make Cambridge a nicer, more attractive place to be? And wouldn't it reduce pollution?
No, the reason I'm against it, and indeed 90% of the people of Cambridge are against it, is because they'd have to pay for doing all sorts of day-to-day activities. So people dropping off their kids at school, going to the supermarket, difficult to say you're shopping, big shopping on the bus, people going to care for elderly relatives, people going into work. So I spoke to one cleaner who does jobs in different parts of Cambridge, can't travel around by bus, it would just take too long, and it would cost her £25 a week, £1,300 a year. Nurses getting to Addenbrooke's Hospital, which is within the zone, and patients having to pay to get to hospital if they can't get on the bus, all opposed to it because the economic damage and the damage to families and individuals. So I think there are lots of alternatives. It's not about climate change because it covers electric vehicles, which don't contribute to climate change while they're being used. It's not about congestion because actually it covers mopeds, which don't contribute to congestion. It's not about pollution. Actually, Cambridge has got the second cleanest air of any city in the UK, according to government. They do a list of the cleanest cities in the UK. It's just about raising the money for the buses.
All right. Well, let me bring our other guests in. You've made a lot of points there. Angie Stringer, basically, Anthony Brown is saying it's not fair. Why should someone pay £5? They might have a lot of money, and then someone else is going in and they might not. It's not a good form of taxation.
Certainly where it's been tried in other places, there has been significant successes. And I think that there's sort of two prongs to this problem. Anthony suggests that the air quality is superb in Cambridge. I don't doubt that, but we do have an issue with cleaning up our air, which we've certainly got to do, with Ella's law going through the Lords at the moment. Supported by Jenny Jones.
Congestion charge the way to do it?
Well, this could be one of the solutions. What we're not hearing from government, of course, is the other solutions to this. I have residents that actually work in Cambridge, and they avoid taking their economic activity to Cambridge because they can't get to their destination in time. If by charging people a small sum of money that frees up more of their time, surely that could be a good thing and a possible solution. I'm not suggesting it's the only solution, but it's the only solution I can see at the moment that's on the table and possibly workable.
Okay, we'll come back to Anthony Brown in a moment with other alternatives and solutions. Alice MacDonald, would you support a congestion charge in Norwich? I know from my own experience it gets pretty chock-a-block.
Well, we're going to come on to talk, I think, about devolution, and actually the point is that you have to have plans that work in specific areas. And when I'm talking to people, I met young people yesterday, and transport was a big issue that comes up, and actually their main concern was, I can wait for a bus for an hour and it just doesn't turn up. And I'm coming here, I didn't get on the bus in the end because it didn't turn up, so I got on my bike. And you have to have a public transport system that you rely on. And if you look under the Conservative government, we've lost about 5,000 bus routes since 2010. So you have to look at different methods for bringing it down. And as is happening in Cambridge, you've got to build it with people in the city to understand what's going to work. But the first priority for me is investment in a really public, green, sustainable public transport system that really works.
And Anthony Brown, isn't this the idea behind the congestion charge, that drivers pay it and then that gets ploughed back into a better public transport system?
Well, indeed, it's about the money which they want to spend on the buses, but actually the Greater Cambridge Partnership, which is the body behind this, supported by Labour and Lib Dems, it's got £600 million a year to spend on transport improvements, so it needs to get on and spend that money. There's lots of different ways we can improve transport around Cambridge with that money without charging £5 for people to drive off the end of their driveway.
So what can you come up with a viable, easy alternative then to this congestion charge?
So they need to, I've been championing better rail links. We've got Cambridge House Station, there's other stations they can put in. They can put in on-road busways, we've got various dual carriages where you could have buses on those dual carriageways. There's lots of other different options they could have within that. You can also, other proposals that have been put on the table which they haven't properly looked at, are workplace charging schemes for people driving to park at work, or you can have a precept on the council tax, which will be fairer, because actually one of the troubles of congestion charge is that people on the lowest incomes get hit hardest. They simply can't afford it. So there's lots of different options out there. They haven't looked at it properly. They've just gone gung-ho for this. But my main thing is they've got £600 million from the national government to improve transport, and they need to do it.
Let me put that point just there briefly to you, Alice McDonald. People on the lowest incomes get it hard.
And I know, I don't know the exact details of the Cambridge proposal, obviously I'm focused on Norwich, but I know they are looking at exemptions for people who are, lower income, so how do you make it work? Because, and this does come back to the overall economic situation that we are in as well, it is a cost of living crisis, and people are really struggling to pay their bills, so we have to really have the solutions that work for them, and part of that is looking at, if you can't get a bus, you can't rely on a bus to get you to work on time, people working shifts, people trying to get to hospital appointments, it just doesn't work. So it needs to be the proper long-term investment in a public transport system that really works.
Okay, well, Cambridge waits to see if it gets a congestion charge or not. Norfolk and Suffolk are waiting to see what devolution